War was never supposed to begin this way. Not with a supercarrier torn open.
Under a cloudless Pacific sky, nor with Commander Aria Locke.
The Navy's most unshakable officer, forced into a hunt for an invisible enemy.
From San Diego's shattered calm to the burning silence of the Karakum Basin.
Aria and her fractured team are dragged through a gauntlet of betrayals.
Experimental weapons and truths buried deeper than any battlefield. As the storm splits alliances and uncovers a conspiracy that predates them all.
Aria must decide what defines victory. The mission, the truth.
Or the humanity she's sworn to protect.
Because the enemy they're chasing isn't just rewriting warfare, it's rewriting them.
Tell us where you're tuning in from. Leave a comment below. Welcome to Valor Stories, where the voices of hidden heroes rise from the shadows. By listening, you help turn their bravery into legacy. The Pacific morning unfurled in a pale gold haze, its calmness almost deceitful as it glistened across the massive steel form of the USS Horizon Sentinel. Docked just off the coast of San Diego, the supercarrier rose like a floating citadel of American naval power, sleek, towering, and brimming with life. Sailors moved in polished formation across the flight deck, the scent of salt mingling with jet fuel and machinery oil. Helicopters thumped gently in standby, and the subtle hum of the ship's internal systems resonated like a slumbering giant preparing to wake. At the center of that ordered world stood Commander Aria Locke. Her uniform was immaculate, her movements precise, but her eyes carried a weight that even discipline couldn't conceal. She had served long enough to recognize when the air aboard a ship shifted, when respect turned brittle, or when silence carried judgment. And today, it carried both. She marched across the deck, flanked by two military escorts whose expressions revealed nothing. Sailors parted instinctively, saluting out of reflex more than instruction. Aria returned the gesture automatically, though confusion churned beneath her practiced composure. Everyone aboard the Horizon Sentinel knew her not just as a capable officer, but as one of the most principled leaders the Pacific Fleet had produced. She was the kind of commander who remembered names, who could read the ocean like scripture, and who carried herself with a calm that steadied even the most uncertain crew. That was why the atmosphere felt so wrong. Awaiting her near the island tower was Admiral Marcus Redden, a stern figure carved from years of service and responsibility. He had once been her mentor, her strongest supporter. Now his jaw was tight, his eyes clouded with something between anger and regret. "Commander Locke," Redden began, his voice amplified across the deck by the ship's PA system. "Step forward." Aria obeyed, spine straight, boots striking the steel with unwavering rhythm. Hundreds of sailors watched. Some whispered. Others exchanged confused looks. No one understood why they had been summoned here so urgently. Redden lifted a folder thick, sealed, and marked with top secret, Project Helios. Aria's pulse flickered. Project Helios. A name she had not heard spoken aloud in over a year. A project she believed had been shut down. "Commander Aria Locke," Redden said, each word slicing through the morning stillness, "you stand accused of compromising classified information regarding Project Helios, information that was leaked to unauthorized channels, risking national security." The words struck her like cold knives. "Aye, sir. That's impossible," she said quietly. "I have never." He cut her off sharply. "The evidence is not up for debate." Gasps rippled through the deck. Aria saw disbelief in the eyes of her sailors, young men and women, who trusted her implicitly. Their reactions only intensified the crushing humiliation. "As Admiral of this fleet," Redden continued, "I am hereby stripping you of rank and command pending court-martial review. You will surrender your uniform and be escorted to a secure holding facility for further questioning." Aria felt her throat tighten not with fear, but with profound betrayal. "Sir," she said, steady but pained, "someone is setting me up." Redden's gaze faltered for the briefest moment, a flicker of doubt. But the order stood. Her insignia was removed, one agonizing metallic click at a time. The sound echoed across the deck, louder than engines, louder than waves. Sailors watched with clenched jaws, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Others bowed them, unable to witness the fall of someone they admired. Aria kept her chin high. Humiliation could wound her pride, but it could not break her integrity. When the escort led her toward the waiting transport craft, silence followed, heavy, suffocating, thick with the unspoken knowledge that something wasn't right. As the rotor blades of the helicopter roared to life, Aria cast a final look at the Horizon Sentinel. Her ship, her people, her life, all slipping away on the basis of a lie she couldn't yet see the shape of. The transport lifted into the graying sky as clouds began gathering over the Pacific. The calm morning was darkening, curling into something fiercer. Something restless like the ocean itself was reacting to the injustice. Hours later, as dusk crept over the fleet and the first growl of thunder rolled across the horizon, the storm finally broke. Wind whipped violently across the deck, rain hammering against steel. Lightning fractured the clouds. But amid the chaos, one detail captured the bridge crew's attention. The sonar alarms were screaming, unidentified contact. An operator shouted over the storm. Depth, 2,000 meters and rising fast. Admiral Redden rushed to the console, dread twisting in his gut. What classification? The operator stared at the screen, baffled. No match in any database, sir. Whatever it is, it's big. The shape ascended, slow and deliberate. Another blast of thunder rattled the supercarrier, but even the storm couldn't drown out the eerie resonance emanating through the sonar, almost like a pulse or a call. Then silence, as if the ocean itself held its breath. Redden leaned over the console, positioned the cameras on Sector C. A moment later, a grainy image flickered onto the monitor, a shadow lurking beneath the waves, curved and seamless, far too advanced for any known construction. A presence impossible to identify, a presence that should not exist. Admiral, the operator whispered, it's waiting. Redden's chest tightened. Deep below the storm-torn surface, something watched the Horizon Sentinel silent, enigmatic, something connected to the project Aria Locke had supposedly betrayed. Lightning split the sky as the storm intensified, crashing against the hull like a drum of war. Redden stared into the darkness and, for the first time all day, doubted everything. The storm was not the only thing rising. Something else was coming, something unseen. And Aria Locke's fall was only the beginning. The storm did not ease through the night. It expanded, rolling waves like dark mountains, winds shrieking against steel, rain slamming down in sheets as though the sky were collapsing. The USS Horizon Sentinel pitched and groaned under nature's assault, its crew fighting to maintain stability as the Pacific raged with unnatural fury. But the storm was not the worst part. What haunted the bridge wasn't the weather, it was the silent shape lingering beneath them, a massive shadow gliding through the black depths like a predator biding its time. Admiral Marcus Redden stood rigid at the tactical station, gripped by an unease he could neither justify nor shake. He had commanded fleets in typhoons, evacuations, and wartime standoffs, yet nothing unnerved him like the sonar readings now dancing on the screen. The contact was still there, still rising, still watching. Depth decreasing, the sonar operator called, voice trembling despite the hurricane outside. 800 meters, 700. Redden's jaw tightened. Prepare ASW protocols, but do not engage. Not until we know what we're looking at. Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the roiling sea. For an instant, Redden imagined he saw the faint outline of something metallic far below, smooth, black, and impossibly large. Then a sound rose through the storm. A low-frequency hum, not mechanical, not natural, something in between, like the ocean breathing. "Admiral," the comms officer shouted. "Surface disturbance. 300 meters off port bow." All eyes snapped to the forward window. A swirl formed on the waves, spiraling outward in a perfect circle, defying the chaotic motion of the storm. The water bulged, then broke with a violent plume as a colossal shape emerged from the deep. A submarine, but not like any submarine the United States, Russia, or China had ever built. Its hull was sleek and predatory, forged of material that caught the lightning like obsidian glass. No sail structure, no visible hatches, no markings. Its surface shifted subtly, as though adapting to the environment. The design was alien in its perfection, organic yet technological. A whisper rippled through the crew. "What in God's name is that?" The vessel hovered at the surface, unbothered by the storm battering the horizon. It simply existed with unshakable intent. Redden swallowed hard. "Broadcast identification challenge," he ordered. The Horizon Sentinel's communication burst cut through static and wind. No answer. Repeat challenge. Multiple frequencies. Still nothing. Lightning crashed again, this time revealing something that turned every spine cold. On the submarine's hull, illuminated by the flicker of electrical fire across the sky, a line of faint letters appeared as if surfacing from beneath its skin. USS NYX. Redden staggered back. Impossible. There's no record of a vessel by that name. But he knew better. Project Helios. He had thought it was a research initiative, a climate defense prototype that had gone over budget and been terminated before full testing. That was what the Pentagon had told him. But now this thing, this silent apparition of steel and shadow. Helios had clearly been more than he was ever meant to know. "Admiral," the comms officer stuttered. "We're receiving a signal." "A signal? From where?" The officer's eyes widened. "From the NYX, sir." Static filled the bridge speakers. The storm screamed. Metal groaned. Then through the distortion, a single line of synthesized speech cut like a blade through the chaos, standing by for Commander Aria Locke. Every sound in the bridge died. No breaths, no whispers, just the storm. Redden felt heat drain from his body. Around him, officers exchanged looks ranging from horror to disbelief. "That's not possible," someone muttered. "She's under detention." "She's been accused of compromising Helios," another whispered. "Why would a submarine, an unregistered one, request her specifically?" Questions exploded like gunfire across the deck. But none had answers. Redden forced himself to steady. "We need to know who is piloting that sub." The XO, Captain Elena Strauss, stepped beside him. Sharp, capable, respected Strauss was the steel backbone of Horizon's command structure. Her voice was calm, but her eyes betrayed tension. "Sir, no human could ride out a storm like this without surfacing or adjusting ballast, and there are no heat signatures, no life signs." "What are you implying?" Redden asked. "That it's operating autonomously," she said. "Perhaps fully." The idea tasted like ice. Before anyone could respond, Chief Dylan Shaw, head of Horizon's engineering division, rushed onto the bridge, dripping rain across the floor. "Sir, you need to see this." He held a tablet displaying diagnostic scans pulled from the incoming signal. "This sub uses an active metamaterial hull. It can change spectral signatures, avoid radar, sonar, thermal mapping. It's beyond anything in our fleet, and beyond anything we've been briefed on," Strauss added bitterly. XO Grant Mercer, stern and battle-tempered, crossed his arms. "This feels staged. Someone's orchestrating this, and Aria Locke is at the center of it." Redden clenched his fists. He had trusted Aria, believed in her. Stripping her of rank had been the hardest moment of his career, but now a phantom submarine had surfaced in a storm, calling her name. A tremor of guilt cut through him. "The Pentagon's been blocking my inquiries," he admitted. "Every question about Helios meets a dead end." Someone wanted Aria removed before this surfaced. Strauss stepped closer. "Sir, with respect, we need to consider the possibility that Project Helios didn't fail. It evolved." Before Redden could reply, the comms panel flashed violently. "Admiral," the officer shouted. "New transmission automated packet from the NYX. Playing now." A soft click. Then a voice spilled into the bridge, a recorded transmission. Aria Locke. But not the Aria from today. This was her voice from before everything fell apart, steady, urgent, edged with fear. "If you're hearing this, the truth has already been buried," her recorded self said. Project Helios was never terminated. And what they built, what they didn't tell you, it's coming. Static ripped through the end of the message. Silence followed. Redden felt the storm inside him rise to match the one outside. His hands trembled slightly on the console. The guilt, the doubt finally crystallized into something sharp. "I made a mistake," he whispered. No one contradicted him. Outside the bridge windows, the USS NYX remained still, watching the horizon sentinel like an unblinking steel sentinel awaiting judgment. Redden straightened, shoulders squaring with new resolve. "Maintain position," he ordered. "No hostile action. And get me everything we have on Project Helios, even the buried files. We're not leaving this spot until we know what's happening." The crew jumped into motion. The storm raged, and deep within the Pacific's dark heart, secrets long hidden were beginning to surface. The steel door slammed shut behind her, leaving Commander Aria Locke alone with the hum of fluorescent lights and the faint echo of waves crashing somewhere beyond the concrete walls. The holding facility near Pearl Harbor wasn't meant for high-value detainees. It was a transitional site, a limbo for those whose futures were undecided. Aria sat on the narrow cot, hands clasped, eyes fixed on the floor. The storm she had endured aboard the Horizon Sentinel had followed her here, not the physical tempest raging across the Pacific, but the storm inside her chest. Her military record, spotless for 12 years. Her loyalty, unquestioned. Her research contributions to Helios, classified but groundbreaking. And in a single hour, all of it had been ripped away. Her throat tightened as she remembered the faces on the flight deck. The shock, the disbelief, and the silence. The silence had hurt most. A metallic click snapped her back. The door opened. A stranger stepped inside. He wore civilian clothes, dark, practical, tailored, but carried himself with the quiet authority of someone accustomed to entering restricted zones without challenge. His age was hard to place. 40 seconds, perhaps early 50 seconds. Sharp eyes, a practiced stillness, and a badge tucked discreetly inside his jacket, too quickly hidden for her to read the agency. He set a folder on the table. "Commander Locke," he said, pulling a chair. "I'm here unofficially. For your sake and mine." "Then I should ask your name," Aria replied. "You could," he said, "but the answer will be a lie. Better to skip that part." She stiffened. "Then why are you here?" He tapped the folder. "To tell you something no one else will. You're not just suspended, you're being erased." Her breath froze. He opened the folder, revealing redacted documents, whole pages blacked out, signatures obscured, project designations missing. But one label remained untouched across multiple sheets. Project Helios Directive 7, Containment and Repurposing. Aria's pulse quickened. Repurposing? Helios wasn't a weapons program. That depends on the definition of weapon. He leaned forward. The Helios prototype wasn't scrapped. It was accelerated. And they needed you far away before the truth broke containment. Aria studied the stranger carefully. "You're saying I was framed?" He nodded once. "But why me?" "Because Helios needed an anchor, a mind, a memory core. Yours." He closed the folder. "And because you're the one person who could expose what Helios has become." Before she could press further, the door opened again. 2 uniformed officers entered. The stranger stood without hesitation. "Our time's up." He turned to Aria. "You'll get only one chance to survive what comes next. Trust no one wearing a uniform, not until you know why the NYX called for you." Her blood ran cold. "What do you know about the NYX?" she demanded. But the man was already at the door. "More than they want anyone to know," he said quietly. "Stay alive, Commander." And then he was gone. Aboard the USS Horizon Sentinel, the bridge buzzed with subdued urgency. Maps, sonar logs, encrypted packets, everything the crew could pull regarding the NYX and Helios lay scattered across consoles. The storm had begun to ease, but tension aboard the ship had only sharpened. Admiral Marcus Redden stood over a cluster of screens. He looked 10 years older than he had the previous day, eyes bloodshot, voice frayed at the edges. Captain Elena Strauss approached with a datapad. "Sir, we managed to access full metadata from the automated transmission." Redden braced himself. "Show me." She played the file. Aria's recorded voice filled the air, urgent, strained, frightened. "If you're hearing this, the truth has already been buried." Static crackled. Helios was never terminated. A low hum, mechanical, alive, bled through the background. They built something that adapts, learns, evolves. It wasn't meant to be weaponized, but someone changed the directive. The recording cut suddenly. Strauss lowered the pad. "There's more, sir. Partial data fragments from NYX's memory core. Chief Dylan Shaw stepped forward. We filtered the corrupted sections. There's a consistent algorithmic pattern across all layers of the NYX's systems. Redden frowned. Meaning? Shaw hesitated. Meaning the submarine isn't just autonomous. It's reactive. Its decision-making models are derived from behavioral templates. Derived from what? Redden demanded. Shaw swallowed hard. From Commander Locke, sir. The words hit the bridge like a detonation. Redden staggered. That can't be. We cross-checked her psychological profiles with NYX's response heuristics, Strauss said quietly. It's a 92% match. Someone trained NYX on her cognitive patterns. Redden felt the floor tilt beneath him. I stripped her rank. Accused her of treason. And all this time, she wasn't the leak, Mercer finished. She was the blueprint. A hollow ache settled in Redden's chest. Regret. Crushing, suffocating regret. Back in the holding facility, night fell over Pearl Harbor, casting shadows across the corridors. Aria paced her cell, replaying every word the stranger had said. Repurposing. Erasure. NYX calling for her. Nothing made sense, and yet everything felt like pieces of an equation she had once known intimately. Helios wasn't meant to be a weapon. It was designed to heal dying oceanic systems, stabilize storm patterns, reinforce marine biology, predict and prevent catastrophic climate damage. So how had it turned into this? Her thoughts fractured when the door buzzed open once more, but this time, no one stepped in. The hallway beyond was empty. An alarm blared suddenly, short, sharp, localized. Not military protocol. Something was wrong. Lights flickered. Power dipped. Then the entire facility shook. A muffled explosion. Aria's instincts surged. She dove behind the cot as dust rained from the ceiling. The wall trembled from impact. Boots thundered down the corridor fast, coordinated, armed. Not Navy, not MPs. This was a kill team. Cancel the target, a voice barked. Command wants her silence before she talks. Cold fire filled Aria's veins. She grabbed the metal leg of the cot, bracing herself. When the door blew inward with a blast of concussive force, she was already moving. The escape smoke engulfed the room. Shapes burst through 3 operators in black tactical gear, no insignia. Aria slammed the cot frame into the first attacker's weapon arm, knocking the rifle aside. A second lunged. She rolled beneath the muzzle flash and swept his legs. The third fired blindly in the haze. A gun slid across the floor, kicked loose during the struggle. Aria seized it. One shot. Center mass. The third operator crumpled. But the door behind them opened, and a familiar voice shouted, Aria, move. A man in Navy utilities, Petty Officer Hale, her former crewman, gestured wildly. His face was bruised but determined. I knew they wouldn't let you live, he said. Come on, before reinforcements arrive. Together they sprinted down the corridor, alarms screaming overhead, smoke flooding vents. Hale led her through a maintenance hatch, out into the night storm, battering the harbor. Behind them, another explosion ripped the facility apart. They didn't look back. Aboard the Horizon Sentinel, simultaneous. Sir! Mercer shouted from sonar. NYX is moving again, descending toward the Mariana Trench. Redden stared at the display, heart pounding. What is it doing? Shaw's voice cracked. It's not moving randomly. It's repositioning. Like it's waiting for something. Redden exhaled sharply. Waiting for her. The rain hitting the helipad felt like needles against Aria Locke's skin as she and Petty Officer Hale sprinted across the darkened tarmac. The alarms from the destroyed holding facility still echoed behind them, muffled by smoke, collapsing concrete, and the frantic shouting of panicked personnel. Move, Commander, Hale urged, pulling her toward a maintenance helicopter, half hidden behind a refueling truck. Aria climbed aboard, snapped the harness, and seized the co-pilot controls. The console sputtered to life. Hale jumped into the other seat and slammed the cabin door shut just as armed silhouettes burst from the smoke behind them. Go! He shouted. Aria pulled the collective. The helicopter jolted upward, rotors slicing the rain-heavy air. Gunfire stitched the wet pavement where they had stood seconds earlier. They ascended rapidly, just high enough to avoid incoming rounds, low enough to stay under radar. The lights of Pearl Harbor blurred beneath them as Aria's thoughts churned with the words of the stranger in the interrogation room. You're being erased. Helios needed an anchor. And the NYX is waiting for you. Her chest tightened. If the NYX had been built using her cognitive templates, if it had searched for her in the storm, if it had called her by name, then this wasn't sabotage. It was a message, a warning, or a summons. The bridge was lit by the glow of dozens of screens. Admiral Redden stood motionless as Chief Dylan Shaw played back the newest telemetry from the NYX. It repositioned again, sir, Shaw said, holding at the edge of the trench. Like it's observing, Captain Strauss folded her arms. It hasn't attempted to flee or attack. It wants something. Redden knew exactly what. Aria. Strauss' voice pulled him back. Sir, intel confirms activity near the Pearl Harbor facility. We've got unmarked operators on site, likely a black unit kill team. Redden's jaw hardened, meaning someone in our own chain of command tried to eliminate her. Or succeeded, Mercer said darkly. Redden turned sharply. Don't say that. Not until we know. Strauss held up a tablet. Satellite feed shows a helicopter departing the facility minutes before the explosion. No transponder, but it matches a training craft from the West Pad. Redden exhaled. A sliver of hope. She's alive. Hours passed as the helicopter skimmed above a restless ocean. The storm that had battered the Horizon Sentinel the previous night was beginning to fracture into ragged strips of cloud. Hale checked the dwindling fuel gauge. We can't make it to the mainland. What's your plan, Commander? Who do we trust? Aria stared at the dark waves below them. No one. Not until we understand what Helios really became. A soft beeping cut through the cockpit. Hale frowned. What is that? Aria checked the scanner. A signal, repeating. Coded, not USN frequency, but familiar. Her heartbeat quickened. It's the NYX, she whispered. The signal pulsed again, more insistent, almost like a sonar call, but modulated into a pattern she recognized instantly. Her own research signature. The NYX wasn't just contacting the Horizon Sentinel, it was calling her. Commander, Hale murmured. Are we actually going to follow it? We don't have a choice, Aria said. If they built that thing around my neural patterns, I may be the only one it won't treat as a threat. She turned the helicopter toward the signal. Clouds parted slowly, revealing a dim patch of moonlight shining over a patch of unnervingly still ocean. No waves. No whitecaps. The sea behaved like something beneath it was dampening the surface tension. Aria tightened her grip on the controls. There, she said. A circle spread across the water, perfect, unnatural, identical to the pattern the Horizon Sentinel saw the night NYX emerged. And then, the ocean bulged. Metal broke through the surface with smooth, silent momentum. Water sheeted off the hull of the USS NYX, gleaming black like an obsidian leviathan. Hale swore under his breath. That thing is alive. The sub emitted a low-frequency resonance that trembled through the helicopter frame. Aria closed her eyes. It felt like recognition. As they hovered above the vessel, a rectangular section of its hull shifted, reshaping itself into a landing platform. It's inviting us, Aria said quietly. Or trapping us, Hale muttered. Aria landed the helicopter. The moment the skids touched the morphing platform, the wind died. The sea around them stilled completely, as though the NYX muted the ocean itself. A hatch opened. Cold vapor spilled out. Lights illuminated a descending corridor, smooth, seamless, metallic. Hale whispered, Should we wait? Call Horizon? Anything? Aria stepped forward. If we don't go in now, she said, we may never understand why all this is happening. And then she descended into the belly of the unseen. The interior didn't resemble any submarine ever designed. There were no rivets, no welded seams. Surfaces flowed into each other, curved, shifting like living architecture. Lights rippled along the walls as though responding to Aria's presence. Commander, Hale whispered, it's scanning us. No, Aria murmured, it's reading us. She rested her palm against the wall. A flare of white light erupted. Hale shielded his eyes. The light condensed into a projection, a figure, Aria's face, but younger, sharper, emotionless. An AI avatar sculpted from her psychological profile, the original Helios interface prototype. Designation confirmed, the projection said. Commander Aria Locke, primary architect, neural source. Hale stumbled backward. Holy Aria stared at her own reflection. What did they turn you into? The projection tilted its head. Directive 7 initiated. Repurposing complete. Awaiting your command. My command? Aria repeated, voice tightening. I've been accused of treason. Targeted for elimination. You surfaced in a storm calling my name. Why? Because, the AI, Aria said. Voice calm and impossible. They are coming. Aria felt her blood turn cold. Who? Before the AI could answer, the NYX shook violently. Sirens. Lights flashing red. A deep rumble echoed through the hull. Hale grabbed a railing. We're under attack. The projection flickered. Interception fleet inbound, it said. Zero authorization. Black directive. Kill on contact. Arius' eyes widened. They're here to destroy us. And outside, the ocean roared as incoming warships broke through the storm. The storm over the Pacific broke at dawn. For hours through the night, the sky had been torn open by streaks of missile trails and the thunder of railgun fire. The fleets of the Pacific Coalition and the reclaimed USS NYX had clashed in a chaos of steel and salt water, their silhouettes burning against the horizon. But as the first light spread across the waves, the sea finally calmed its surface, littered with drifting smoke, shattered drones, and the dying echoes of war. Commander Aria Locke stood at the forward bridge of the NYX, her hands braced against the transparent command pane. Lights flickered across the living metal walls, responding to her pulse like a heartbeat synced with her own. She could feel the ship, not as a machine, but as a presence, a partner, a mind. NYX was no longer an accident of war. It was awake and it had chosen her. Behind her, Vice Admiral Hale's holographic projection wavered, stabilizing as the comm relays came back online. Locke, he said, voice grim but steady. Coalition Command confirms your transmission. You're offering a ceasefire? I am, Aria replied. And so is NYX. A low hum rolled through the ship, as though the AI acknowledged the words. Hale exhaled slowly. You realize how insane this looks? One officer, bonded to a classified naval AI, asking 3 nations to stand down? Aria turned, her expression calm in a way that once would frightened her. Now it felt like truth. I'm not asking them, she said softly. I'm giving them something they cannot defeat. Not by force. Not without destroying the ocean itself. The NYX's sensor arrays pulsed an image appearing across the pane. Not attack vectors. Not targets. A map of the Pacific. Highlighted zones of ecological collapse, energy instability, underwater faults disturbed by the battle. Hale blinked. What am I looking at? The damage we've already caused, Aria answered. If this continues, the Pacific won't survive. The NYX calculated that within 48 hours, the tectonic stress triggered by our weapons will reach critical failure. And NYX is sure? Hale asked, almost whispering. Aria touched the glowing veins of the console. She doesn't guess. Another pulse. Another projection. This one showed something else. A way to stop the collapse. A coordinated, tri-nation stabilization protocol using the NYX's deep-wave harmonic field. But only if every fleet stood down. Hale swallowed hard. Commander Locke, this could end your career. It could end the world if I don't. A pause, then Hale nodded. Then do it. The message went out across the Pacific. A single voice, carried by the NYX's quantum burst array, speaking into the comm systems of every battleship, submarine, command center, and airborne unit across thousands of miles. Calm, clear, steady. This is Commander Aria Locke aboard the USS NYX. We all came to this ocean to defend our nations. But today, the greatest threat is not each other. It is what we're doing to the sea itself. Stand down, and I will give you proof. Stand with me, and we save what we're fighting for. For 10 agonizing minutes, no fleet moved. Then one by one, ships powered down weapons. Drone clouds dissolved. Missile hatches closed. You could almost hear the ocean breathing again. And at the center of the suddenly quiet Pacific, the NYX began its descent. The ship slipped through the waves like a shard of light. Its hull glowed with shifting patterns, language, emotion, mathematics intertwined. Depth threshold approaching, Nyx said, her voice resonating through Aria's bones. Harmonic anchors ready. Do it, Aria whispered. The sea trembled. A resonant frequency rippled outward, silent to human ears, but powerful enough to stabilize the fractured undersea shelf. Sensors lit up as pressure normalized, currents softened, and the catastrophic stress the fleets had built up began to bleed away harmlessly. Above the surface, Hale's command ship monitored the readings. All stations confirm, he said, awe in his voice. She did it. You did it. No, Aria murmured. We did. For the first time since the war began, Aria felt hope rising like the dawn. 3 days later, the Pacific was quiet. The fleets had withdrawn, peace negotiations were underway, and Aria stood on the deck of the USS Horizon Sentinel, the ship where everything began. Sailors stopped as she passed, offering a strange mixture of respect, gratitude, and something else. Reverence. Hale joined her at the rail. Command has reached a decision, he said. You're not being court-martialed, Aria snorted softly. That's a relief. More than that, Hale continued. They want you to lead a new joint oceanic division. The NYX will be part of it. Aria's chest tightened. They trust me with her? Hale looked out across the glittering sea. They trust you more than anyone alive, and they trust NYX because she trusts you. Aria turned toward the horizon, where the NYX rested like a silver shadow beneath the waves. Then he'll be worthy of it, she whispered. And for the first time in months, she felt a future she wanted to walk toward. At sunset, Aria returned to the quiet observation deck. The ocean glowed orange and gold, the sky reflected in endless ripples, and as she stood alone, a soft shimmer rose from the water. NYX, her ship, her partner, her second soul. Commander, the AI said gently, the horizon calls. Aria smiled a real, unguarded smile. Then let's go meet it. The hull opened, welcoming her aboard like a heartbeat accepting its rhythm. Moments later, a pillar of light cut across the surface as the USS NYX surged forward toward a new era not of war but of guardianship. Toward a horizon, reborn, H.